Hey, Patrick Lovell coming to you on Monday afternoon. It looks like it's April 24th, 2023 at 4:34 p.m. And I am moving, I am slamming forward like, a fullback, like beast mode, just breaking into the line, just doing everything I can, driving my legs, driving my body, driving the truth forward until somehow it clicks. And I'm using Twitter as a primary sort of initiative. There are some others, but today, I think there's a few, like always, elements that need to be kind of wrapped into what it is that you're looking at and why what I'm telling you is the only path forward. It literally is. So earlier today, I think many people were shocked, and I guess I was shocked too, quite frankly, that Tucker Carlson was unceremoniously pushed out the door at Fox. I mean, the guy owned the airwaves and had been pretty much untouchable for a long time. And because I guess, I don't know the details, but I'm assuming because of the nature of whatever's connected to probably the settlements with Dominion for what do we? I think I've kind of got hung up on this the last couple of times. $787 million. But there's some other interesting things going on as well, and I'm sure Tucker will wind up at something that's even further right. He's got such a huge audience. I'm sure he'll land somewhere. It was interesting though because this guy who's been at CNN for I think more than a decade, I think as many as 17 years. Somebody I pretty much turned the channel immediately anytime I saw him. I was never a fan, but Don Lemon, and he's been in. Almost like an afterthought or a joke. But it was interesting because, as I was kind of looking through Tucker Carlson and I was trying to, weigh and understand, Twitter Blue, which is kind of ridiculous. I found out earlier today that, I've been myself having some issues with Twitter Blue and, my timing is impeccable. I subscribed to Twitter Blue about 3 or 4 weeks ago, right as all of this mayhem with Twitter Blue started. I was really never a Twitter guy until like the last, I don't know, maybe 6 months. But I was trying to grow the circle, and I thought it was a more appropriate place because people were willing to engage in politics. But then, of course, I was looking forward to Elon becoming the CEO because I did feel like Twitter was kind of jammed up. And, his whole proclamation of free speech and everything else just turned into another pretzel, upside down, inside out, everything else. And I've talked about it vis-a-vis the Twitter files and pulling the rug on Matt Taibbi. And, and I find myself in good company. The fact that I haven't gotten my Twitter blue check mark, but at the same time, it's like there's a lot of things that apparently come with the Twitter blue check mark, like putting you into a higher sort of, I don't know, velocity of getting your messaging out there. So I thought it would be worth the investment. And it's pretty easy to see that it's me. And I've checked all the boxes of the criteria, to get the blue check mark. And it's been 3 weeks and I haven't. It says it's currently pending. But, as a result of all of this, I found myself, I was like, look, I'm going to look into really briefly that interview that I tried to avoid. But between Twitter Carlson, that's kind of funny, Tucker Carlson and Elon Musk. And I was kind of interested in some of it, but the most interesting aspect of it was talking about, I think, the AI personality Bard that Microsoft is involved with, as far as, and also Chap G. I can't remember what the abbreviation is, but I just happened to do kind of a follow up and to look into some of the latest information on AI as it relates to this stuff that Tucker and Elon were talking about, and it was shocking. I came across some information that this Bard can do things that are just unbelievably spectacular that could take out tens of thousands of jobs like that. Especially intellectual jobs, people that are real, that actually do software design or architecture or media. And then I thought to myself, well, wait a second. How would it be any different? Because I think one of the revelations that I discovered, and I wasn't aware of, with this intelligence, this AI, artificial intelligence, is they've programmed it to now lie. And so it can do everything that mainstream media is doing without paying the likes of Tucker Carlson, I guess, or Rachel Maddow or whatever, just to basically, I mean, that would be the perfect next step, honestly. It just lie to people. It just like build into algorithms what people are trending, that people are being force fed to trend, and then covering everything else out like people like me. And this whole thing is so ridiculously Orwellian. And I'll just, kind of summarize it like this. People. I, One of the things that I learned from AI is that it looks for patterns. Honestly, I'm a little bit autistic when it comes to patterns and understanding criminal fraud, particularly financial fraud, and the history of fraud, and the ins and outs of everything that this goddamn master system is covering up. Because again, kind of like AI, and all of this stuff could be programmed and we can be replaced. What do you think money is? What do you think fiat currency is? Now, look, I believe that we should have fiat currency. I'm not into the gold standard and I understand value, but if the country is run with the law and the integrity of law and the way things are supposed to function predicated on that law, particularly with the accountability of the law, then you won't have scenarios of what it is that I'm revealing to you. That Federal Reserve Act 13.3 was used illegally. All you got to do is look in the statutes. All you have to do is cross-pollinate it with my work in the con at www.thecon.tv. That's not enough for you. Go look at all of the settlements. Go look at the national mortgage settlement. Backtrack into all the bank settlements. Backtrack into the Federal Crisis Inquiry Commission. Try to put it all together and then watch the con about 50 times until it sinks in. The bottom line is it's so simple. It's madness. I'm telling you, there were like tens of millions of illegal documentation fraud that we used in liar's loans to basically blow up the world. And when we blew up the world and all of this stuff was illegal, literally, it was like a sixth grader could look into the stuff and identify, after understanding the patterns that I've revealed, and knowing what the law is, could tell you exactly how it's, who's smarter than a fifth grader sort of thing. And can tell you how it exactly was illegal. Meanwhile, everybody's bumping into each other and lying and stealing and cheating and everything else. And it's like AI and who's real and who's not and who's got the blue check and all of this insanity. And here I am, meanwhile, literally standing, naked with the truth that could change the world. And all I'm asking you to do is to investigate me, check out who I am, understand I've got literally hundreds, if not thousands of hours worth of material between, or at least thousands of hours into it in terms of all of the revelations that I've made available on TikTok. I've had over 7 million views there. That's interesting. A Chinese company's probably very happy to have somebody like me, do what I've done. And, interestingly, Marianne Williamson was getting a whole lot of upside on TikTok, in the mainstream media and also independent media because she's got 11 million and she's well known. I'm not well known. I'm over 7.5 million, 8 million views. But how come it didn't translate to Twitter? And I gave up on Facebook a long time ago. I know how, because algorithms, and there's certain things that you can't say. And I have noticed that if I don't say, curse words, and if I don't scream, I tend to get more views. I don't know if that's you guys or if that's the actual algos and the AI and all the rest of it. But guys, the law is supposed to hold power to account. The United States was born to purge tyranny. We fought in many wars to purge evil and injustice, and ultimately here we are in 2023, and there's some sort of blend of conformity, silence, ignorance, brain dead, lobotomized zombies that can't tie their shoes together to understand that if, I guess the only analogy that really makes sense, there's many analogies, but what if the lights in our cities didn't work and you got into like 100 accidents, in a month, would you finally go, wait a second, somebody's got to fix these lights? Or what about all of a sudden at one time? And I once did the math on this, and I got to think about this math, and please don't hold me to it because sometimes I say really silly things when I don't have the actual figures in front of me. But 747s, typically 400 series, I think carry 400 passengers-ish. I mean, the 2008 Great Financial Crisis literally wiped out tens of millions of people. On the low end of the United States, 50 million people. Around the world, 100 million people. How many 747s could you fill up with the amount of people that got completely destroyed during the 2008 Great Financial Crisis based on a complete criminal racket? And if you were like going to the airport and you saw planes falling out of the sky, and would you have a lot of confidence getting onto a plane? Or all of a sudden, suddenly ships just start sinking and you find out later that maybe they were sabotaged and then the companies that sabotaged them were collecting on insurance. It's like that. It's mind-boggling, but it's simple. And yet media is not going to tell you this stuff. And we're getting closer and closer to AI. I mean, the alligators have already taken us there. And a guy like Tucker Carlson got fired unceremoniously while he's brought millions upon millions of viewers to Fox. Now, granted, I watched the only thing I have ever liked from Tucker, quite frankly, two things. I enjoy his UFO stuff; it's kind of fun to watch. And then he really did some great stuff on private equity. And he's a smart guy. I knew he was a smart guy. The guy went to Harvard, and he's got a degree, a law degree from Yale. I mean, the guy got. Imagine how expensive that Ivy League education is to lie to idiots. There's an art form in that. I don't know how to lie like that. I'm not that kind of guy. Like I told you before, during my bar mitzvah speech, I talked about, the importance of honesty. And I've carried that with me how many years now? That's 41 years since I had that time period. I mean, come on. It's like it's who I am. I believe in integrity. I want the system to win. I grew up in a time period of great technological innovation throughout that time period, all sorts of amazing things, only to be sabotaged by fraud, which is ultimately the power that controls everything. I know it sounds Orwellian. It's worse. It's worse than any science fiction movie you've ever seen. And as I've said over and over and over, there are billionaires and multinational companies worth billions and others throughout the world that can pay literally billions of dollars to control the system, control, monopolies, and, be immune and immune from prosecutions above the line, which means they can be lawless and reckless and never see any accountability because they own the government, they own the Supreme Court, and we've seen that in the last several weeks. I mean, is this the end of times? It sometimes feels like it, right? And then ultimately, everybody's walking around like somebody's got some sort of answer, and they're chasing people who lie to you every single day. That's their business model. And then they trust the courts, but we see that the courts are corrupt. The information I have shows that there were tens of millions of illegal documentation fraud that literally illegally foreclosed on millions of people. A lot of innocent people, mostly. Who knows what the real percentage is? I'd say, I guess it's 90% of people were completely innocent. I'd say 10% of the market, which are still there, were completely insane, reckless, out of control, and beyond stupid, and deserve to go down. But the whole system set everybody else up, and it starts with minorities, and it got the whole system, and then led to this information I'm telling you that leads to the fact that billionaires own the tax code, own the government, can create AI, have free money that can be pulled out of thin air. That's the full faith and credit of the United States. That's based on a lot of very important things, but at the same time they use for themselves. We've seen trillions of dollars go to the richest people with the backstop of the United States, and I mean literally quantitative easing is purchasing assets of the rich to guarantee it to sell across the world. I mean that's what we've been doing for the past 13 years, and it's absolute insanity. So it's betrayed everything that we think we are: the integrity of law, free markets, the dynamism of the American dream, fairness, and the beauty that was our country, but is no more. And I stand alone. And I don't stand alone because I'm surrounded by a couple of very great people. Particularly, I got to call out Roseanne Rabiola Mille, who's a machine, and she's unbelievably committed. And I thank my lucky stars every day for her involvement. And of course, two other angels that are in our stable, Becky Weesey, who got us the 7.5 million views on TikTok, and then Paris Faye, who's been busting her chops to try to get people to understand the back end of how all this happens, because the GSEs have been using quantitative easing to basically strong arm all of the different law firms to lie, steal, and cheat on behalf of the so-called quasi governmental enterprise to illegally foreclose on millions of people. And it's tied into, and they multi-pledge the assets, and it's tied into international racketeering. The level of criminality is insane, and it's in every single direction. And it's because we got rid of the law and accountability, and everybody's talking about it. Everybody's talking about corruption. From Jon Stewart to Russell Brand to Joe Rogan to literally everybody in primetime, but no one will bring you the information that I have, that I'll remind you took me north of 13 years completely soup to nuts and millions of dollars, north of $4 million, to bring all of this information to the floor that was then censored by these machines like AI and BlackRock, who have all the control that I reveal, have all the control. It's the emperor's new clothes. And the other side of the coin is, Humpty Dumpty. Yeah, on fucking acid or steroids or Godzilla or whatever that thought. I mean, people, can I find 1,300 patriots? It's really 1,246. Okay, I need by the 30th. It's the 24th. That's 6 days. 6 days. I've got to somehow encourage and inspire and get you to understand that $13 into this situation is going to build a tidal wave populist crusade to purge corruption. That you, me, and everyone you see who isn't a Nazi, who believes in dignity and integrity and decency and sustainability and liberty, will defeat tyranny. And that's our destiny. And we'll usher in the Clean New Deal, and there's steps to do that. We get on first base with the first 1,246 in addition to the 54 that have already come on board. Then we have enough to start a podcast, a professional podcast, where I can welcome in all of the experts to get this out there. And then, hopefully get some experts in the field who understand how to navigate around all of the algorithms. That's first and foremost. But we'll get the message out and continue to grow the circle that will ultimately lead to, hopefully, a national barnstorming revival tour with all of this information. That's a modern day Pecora hearing. If you don't know what that is, go watch the work at www.thecon.tv. Or if you want to see it for free, you can just go to our video section on that website. Or I highly encourage you to check out our podcast with our friends at the New Progressives, Real Progressives, called The New Untouchables. It was absolutely magnificent. The amount of information that's in there is mind-boggling. And you can't get that from the New York Times. They suppressed it. You can't get it from CNN. They're a joke. You're not going to get it from Fox. They're propaganda. And they just paid $787 million to try to, basically put it under the rug so everybody forgets about it tomorrow, which is a possibility, even though they lied about a coup d'etat with a president that basically is a, crime boss. The whole thing is insane. It's a joke. How is it possible that this isn't getting to you? Well, then again, I come back to the blue check and everything else. And I'm being suppressed somehow. But if somehow you like and subscribe to this, I think the least amount of pushback I'm getting, I think, is on YouTube, believe it or not. I think they just do it straight by the book. Well, yeah, I'm sure they don't. But at the same time, I feel less suppressed on YouTube than anywhere else. But Twitter is incredible. But if somehow you like and subscribe and you share and you invest $13, will create a tidal wave populist crusade to purge corruption. And then the last note on all of that, look, you're going to get a t-shirt, which is going to have a killer hashtag, which are all the hashtags we put in all of our profile, which are the right hashtags to break through this unbelievable lobotomized zombie circus and, bust through and hopefully get signs in people's windows and on their lawns, that sort of thing. And also bumper stickers. You'll get that. The way that's going to work is if you invest $13 and you bring 13 people to the mix, then you'll get those items, which will be fabulous. But I want to start organizing like weekly Zoom meetings and get everybody out there and get really, really organized so we can make this happen. But I will say this on a business level, because the entirety of media is an affront to journalism. There is no truth. The truth has no value. That's what I've learned. That's what I'm trying to break through. That's why I'm trying to win the day, because the truth has to have value. Otherwise, we're completely you-know-what, right? So I think that, I'll just kind of throw a marker out there. But like, for example, the first, somewhere in the first 10,000 investors at that amount of money, I'm not asking for anything more than $13, because it's more important to grow this thing organically. But you'll be in a position, if you're interested, to be a shareholder at a specific buy-in, if I can ever do the due diligence and figure out what that would be, to create a whole new media platform, to challenge and replace everyone. Because the billionaires and the multimillionaires or multinationals own, the 7 companies own all the media. And they've lied to us nonstop for 20 years. I personally have so many revelations that should make the country's head spin 50 million times to Sunday. And I know you're out there. I know you're out there. You have to be out there. I meet good people all of the time. I know you're out there. Somehow this has got to go viral. 50 million people got set up, the 100 million people around the world, the most innocent amongst us. Females that are widows got set up and had their houses stolen from them. Millions of people got, basically thrown out of their house, had their marriages destroyed. Many of them wound up homeless. Who knows how many committed suicide? If you're watching this and you don't get on board and that happened to you, why would you forgo this? Why would you forsake this? Nobody's fighting for you. Nobody. There is no justice in this country unless we make our own justice. And there is no justice, quite frankly, based on everything we've seen from Black Lives Matter and you name it over the course of the last, again, I'm going to say this is just, since the last 20 years seems to me to be the worst aspect of it. There is no justice unless you can afford it. And if you can afford it, there is no accountability. Guys, that means it's an aristocracy. It's an oligarchy. It's a dictatorship. It's fascism. It's corporate fascism undergirds the criminal syndicate that uses socialism to pay the mob that creates fascism. Again, if you, me, and everyone you see who isn't a Nazi, who believes in integrity, decency, dignity, sustainability, liberty, we will defeat tyranny, and that's our destiny, to usher in a clean new deal, which we have to do anyway. Otherwise, we're toast on that front. And on the other side of this dark times, which feels like the dark ages to me of lies and deception, before AI can even make it worse, we've got to join arms, and we've got to bulldoze this evil like it has us.